Rejoice. This is the day the Lord has made. I'm Dr. Amanda, and welcome back to Mama Said, where intergenerational wisdom meets real life, real faith, and whole person health. We have talked about the launch, the silence, the tongue, and words spoken, allowing them to fall and having a place for them when they do. Today we talk about something even every farmer understands, but every parent struggles with, and that is releasing the seed. And Mama said, a watched field grows no faster. A farmer does not plant a seed and then stand over the soil, watching it every hour of every day. He plants it, he waters it, he trusts the process, and then he waits because he understands something fundamental. His job was the planting. The growing belongs to God. Now think about that in terms of your child. Every prayer you prayed over them, that was a seed. Every scripture you spoke into their life, that was a seed. Every value you modeled, every boundary you set, every hard conversation you had, that was a seed. Every sacrifice you made, every tear you cried, every night you stayed up worrying and chose to pray instead, that was a seed. And you have been planting for years and maybe even decades. And now God is saying, release the seed, get out of the way, and let me grow what you planted. Your watching does not speed up the harvest. Your anxiety over what is happening underground does not change what God is doing in the root system. I'm reminded of a pothos plant my daughter brought home last year. She had gotten snippets of the plant from a friend. She's pretty good at growing plants, and we put those pieces in water. There was no root system, but we knew if they stayed in the water and sunshine, eventually they would start growing. Now, let me tell you, it felt like a year, even before we saw the first root. It seemed like we watched it every day, but the moment we stopped watching it, a root appeared. Although it's very tiny, we really got excited. Then we placed that snippet in soil, and this is what that small root is doing now. It's finally breaking the surface of the soil. It felt like eternity to see the plant action, but once it hit the surface and was released from the soil, it took off being the plant it was designed to be. So remember, a watched field grows no faster, but a trusted field surrendered to the farmer who never sleeps will produce a harvest in its season. And here's the reality. Research on faith formation and early values training tells a very powerful story. Children raised in homes where faith values and character are consistently modeled are significantly more likely to carry those values into adulthood, even through seasons of rebellion or wandering. And a landmark study by the Fuller Youth Institute found that faith planted in childhood has a deep root system that often resurfaces in young adults, even when it appears completely dormant during the teenage and college years. Research found from the Search Institute found that young people with a strong foundation of faith and values are significantly more likely to make healthy choices, avoid risky behavior, and develop into resilient, contributing adults. Most powerfully, research consistently shows that parental modeling is the single most influential factor in a child's long-term faith development. Not church attendance, not youth groups, not a Christian school, but parental modeling. You living it out every day in your home. That seed is already in the ground. The question is whether you trust the farmer enough to stop watching the field and let him do only what he can do. 1 Corinthians 3 and 6 says, I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. He's responsible for making it grow. And the Greek word for making it grow is to increase, to cause to grow, to enlarge. God is not passively waiting for the growth to happen. He is actively, continuously in the process of that seed doing what it does. He's intentionally causing the seed to grow. Even when you cannot see it, even when the ground looks bare, even when your child is in their blackout period and giving no signs of life, God is growing what you planted underneath the surface. Galatians 6 and 9 says, let us not grow weary in well doing, for in due season we will reap if we don't give up, if we faint not. And the Greek word for proper time is kairos, the appointed time, the right season, the moment that God specifically designed for that harvest. There is a kairos moment for your child, a specific God-appointed season when everything you planted will break through the surface and bear fruit. We cannot rush a kairos. A watched field grows no faster. Trust the farmer, trust the season. And we go back to this scripture, Proverbs 22 and 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And we know the Hebrew word for train is chanak, to dedicate, to inaugurate, to narrow the path. You have already narrowed the path. You have already dedicated them. You have already done the work of chanak. Now release them. Release them to walk that path and trust God to keep them on it. In my book, Think About What You're Thinking. It's anchored in Proverbs 23 and 7. And in that book, I address the thought patterns that keep parents from releasing the seed. The thought that says, what if it doesn't grow? The thought that says, what if I did not plant enough? Those thoughts left unsurrendered become the anxiety that drives a parent back to the field over and over, watching day in and day out. Faith begins in the mind, and releasing the seed begins with releasing the anxious thoughts that says God cannot be trusted with what we planted. The link to the book is in the bio. What seed have you planted in your child that you are struggling to trust God with? What area are you still watching instead of releasing to the farmer? Drop it in the comments. Let this community stand in faith with you for that harvest. Share this with a parent who needs permission to stop watching the field. Tag them, send it to them, and subscribe, because we're celebrating the harvest even in the coming days, and you don't want to miss it. Here are your action steps today. Number 1, write down 3 specific seeds you have planted in your child. 3 things you have prayed, spoken, modeled, or deposited intentionally. Name them specifically. Number 2, write 1 Corinthians 3 and 6 next to each one. I planted the seed, but God has been making it grow. Let that be your declaration over each seed. And then number 3, identify one area where you are still watching the field. Name it, then pray, Lord, I release this seed to you. I trust you with the harvest. I will not watch the field today. And lastly, number 4, pick up a copy of Think About What You're Thinking and begin addressing the anxious thoughts that keeps driving you back to the field. The link is in the bio. Be well and be loved. God bless you.